Hello, my cookies. Welcome to Russell Cooks. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today, I have Tomme Tartine. Now, this is fantastic. It's like an open-faced sandwich. It's delicious. This is pretty much from the alpine region in Europe. You can't really localize it to France or Italy or Switzerland because in the Alps, all the cuisine is pretty much the same. Doesn't matter what country you're in. And this is like one of those things that you would get either for lunch or after skiing with a nice tall glass of wine. And it's just delicious. It's rich and it's easy, which is what I love most. First things first, you're going to need a nice country loaf of bread. You're also going to need some heavy cream, shallot. I have some Tomme cheese, Tomme. I have 2-ounce slice of bacon. It's a thick cut, just kind of diced up. I got a couple little heads of fennel. You can probably get away with one if it's big enough. I saved some of the ribs, so I'll use some fennel fronds, completely optional. You're gonna need 1 to 2 cloves of garlic, some olive oil, some butter, and then of course, some salt and pepper. Now that we have our ingredients, let's get started. We are going to start with the topping. So we are going to start with 2 tablespoons of butter here. I'm going to get that in my pot, and I'm just going to add the bacon. Cold pot, we're going to melt it, kind of cook it up together. Once these are kind of crispy, I'm going to get the shallot in. Oh, I forgot to mention, you need a couple shallots. For our shallots, I'm just going to kind of mince it up, chop it fine. All right, let's start to get some of these shallots in. Our butter's starting to brown. Just going to saute them till they're tender. It's going to take a couple minutes. It's just got such a particular scent. Oof. And while that goes, let's cut up our fennel and trim off any brown spots. It's going to dice it relatively small. We're going to be putting this on the toast, so you want it small enough so it doesn't just kind of fall off. Between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch dice. All right, one more. I think that should be good. These are relatively small, so I'll do the 2. 1 is probably sufficient if you get a big enough one. All right, let's get all this fennel into our pot. We're getting our fennel into our pot. We're going to cook it over medium heat. You kind of want it to start softening. That's going to take about 4 minutes. Once that happens, we're going to get our heavy cream in, and we're going to finish the cooking. But while this kind of softens a bit, let's get our bread going. So you got yourself a boule. For this boule, I'm just going to do 4 thick slices. I might only end up doing 2, but this recipe is essentially for 4. So you can do whatever size you want. You want them smaller? Great. You want them bigger? Fantastic. About a 1/2 inch thick. All right, now in your toaster oven, you're just going to toast these up, not too long, probably on a lighter side. That's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to put maybe a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. If you're using table salt, maybe go down to an 1/8. Bacon's going to add some salinity here, so don't go overboard. Next up, we are going to slice our cheese. I will do one with kind of skin on the rind, and I'm going to do one where I take the rind off. You can do it either way. I personally, I'm not a huge fan of the rind, so I'm always taking it off, but you can absolutely eat it if you want. If you're doing 4, you're going to maybe 12 ounces of this cheese for 4 slices. You're going to want about 4 slices per slice of bread, maybe an 1/8 of an inch thick. Our fennel is looking like it's starting to soften. We're getting a little bit of browning on the bottom. I'm going to add in my heavy cream now, 2/3 a cup heavy cream, dropping the heat down to medium low. We're just going to cook this uncovered until the cream kind of starts to thicken. Medium low heat, depending on your stove. You don't want a rapid boil. You want the fennel to get soft in the cream and the cream to reduce and thicken up. And that's going to take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. So we're just going to let that go. Our toast, not quite. It needs a little bit more time. So I'm just going to pop it back in. I want it just starting to kind of brown and get toasty. In the meanwhile, I'm just going to take one of these garlic cloves, lightly smash, just to get the skin off. Because what we're going to do, that crusty toasted bread, we're going to take this garlic clove and we're just going to rub it back and forth over it. And then we're going to drizzle a little olive oil on top, brush it on, and then we're good to go. And that's just going to give a little bit of flavor. Garlic, obviously, and the oil is going to help kind of insulate the bread so it doesn't get super soggy. All right, now while we wait, I'm going to take a little bit of these fronds. I'm just going to mince them up, and this will just be a nice garnish. It'll give us a little bit more of that fennel flavor. Completely optional. Getting a good reduction here. We're going to need a couple more minutes, and then we'll be looking good. Toast is done. Here we go. You can start to see it's getting brown right there, but it's not like toast. And the reason we're also doing that is because we're going to be putting it under the broiler. And if you put it under the broiler, the edges might start to burn if you've toasted it too much. So I'm just going to take my garlic clove here, rub it on. Sandpaper action. Look at that. It's already started to take down that garlic clove. So I know I'm getting garlic on this bread and I can smell it. You can do both sides if you want. People always say, well, do you have to season both sides? And I'm like, well, do you eat both sides? With that said, I'm only going to do one side. Now it's time for a little bit of olive oil. Just going to brush it on. Perfect. Smells great. Looks great. Let's check on our fennel cream here. It's thickened up. It's starting to brown. The cream itself is starting to turn a little brown. That means we're getting really close. Probably 30 seconds to a minute out here. While that finishes up, I'm just going to do 2. You can absolutely do all 4. I'm just going to do the 2. I'm going to stick this under the broiler. I'm going to start preheating my broiler. You want it 4 to 6 inches from the broiler element. You don't want it super close. You're going to want to watch it. It's probably going to take about 5 minutes to broil here. I kind of want it like a risotto consistency, not mashed potato. Mashed potato fighting to stand up and winning the battle. Risotto is fighting to stand up and losing the battle. That's what I want here. When I pile it up, it's going to sink back down. It's not going to stay piled up. We are right there. Let's spoon this stuff on top. Remember, I made enough for 4 here. I'm only doing the 2. We're just going to cover this with a nice portion. Oh yeah, a hearty portion here. Remember, this is lunch. Now that we have this going, I'm going to do my Tomme cheese here. I'm just going to layer it on top because this size piece only takes about 3. That's fine. I'm going to do one without the rind here. Now we're going to broil it. Again, 5 minutes. Get it going. Keep an eye on it. Want the cheese to melt. I'm just going to rotate this so we have even cooking. Ooh, we're getting a little burnt toast in the back there. This looks perfect. I'm going to pull it out. Look at it. We got some browning on the cheese. It's nice and melted. It's covered everything. Yeah, we got a little burnt in here. We're going to scrape that off. Got to let it cool a little bit though. All right, I'm just going to cut this in half. Some fronds. So again, this is like an open face sandwich. Think avocado toast. You can eat it with your hands. Let's do it. Oh, it's ripping hot. We got this ooey gooey melty cheese all over the place. Oh, that is just pure indulgence. It is delicious. It is rich. It is creamy. It is cheesy. Get a little bit of that baconess in there. Garlic really adds some nice background notes. Gives it a little bit more depth. Doesn't make it one note. The fennel just shines here. The bacon in there really ups that savoriness. It's pretty balanced. You know, you get a little bit of sweetness from the fennel. You get that savoriness from the butter, the cream, the bacon. This is perfect. Thanks everyone for tuning in. That is Tomme Tartine. If you like what you saw, don't forget, you can follow me on YouTube, Twitch. I'm also on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. I'll see you next time. Take care.